Welcome to SEL Tips for Parents with Students with Disabilities. Today we are going to discuss responsible decision making. As we discuss this area of SEL, we are going to provide you with tips and ideas on how you can incorporate and teach at home. This is a snapshot of today's session. We'll do some introductions. We'll talk about what social emotional learning is, what this responsible decision making is, and we'll have some times for questions and answers. Your instructors for today will include myself, Christina Lehman. I am a mother of 2 children, aged 3 and 13, and I work in the ESE department on the behavior team.
Hello parents, I am Sarah Drummond and I am a mother of 1 beautiful daughter. Good morning.
Hi parents, my name is Sarah Pordrews. I'm also one of the behavior coaches for the ESE department. I am the mother of 3 beautiful children, one 14, one 12, and one 8. We're going to do a little activity to kind of get us started on this idea of responsible decision making. It's an activity called What Would You Do? This is a great activity you can do with your own children while you're driving in the car, maybe cooking dinner, so on and so forth, to kind of get them start thinking about, what would they do in certain situations. So here, this is how we're going to practice. I'm going to give you a list of situations in which you would have to make an important choice. Please type your answer to each situation in the chat box, and then we will discuss your answers. So here's the very first one we're going to look at, okay? While you're playing with your little brother, he accidentally breaks your favorite toy. What would you do next? Excellent idea. Yes, definitely tell mom. But that also leads to a conversation about tattling. So you might want to have a conversation about that too. I would ask for him to apologize. That's definitely a solution to that problem. Cry could also be something that would happen too if your little brother broke, especially if it was your favorite toy and he broke that, you might cry. Another thing you might also do is maybe tell your little brother how that makes him feel. So that might be a solution to that situation. So we're going to take a look at the next one. You see a new girl playing by herself at recess. What do you say to her? Go ahead and write some of your ideas in the chat box. You want to go play with me? That would be a great thing. But you can see with this particular social skill of responsible decision making is a very large one that encompasses a lot of very small skills that they're going to need to have in certain situations to be able to problem solve. And one of them would be able to introduce themselves or possibly how to make a friend. Hey, are you new at school? Definitely a great way to start a conversation with the student. Would you like to play? What's your name? Once again, great solutions to that particular problem. But if your child is lacking some of those skills on how to make friends, that might be a great way to figure that out. You ask them this question and you find out, oh, he doesn't know how to say that. And so you would in turn have to maybe have that conversation of, hey, you introduce yourself, ask what they like, what's their name, so on and so forth. The next one we're going to look at is you're eating a sugar cookie and your friend asks if you can have a bite. How do you respond in this situation? This one is going to be a little bit different now in 2020 with COVID. However, how does your child share? How does your child know how to share? What would they know what to do? So if you have some ideas on that, put that in the chat box. You're right. OCPS does not let us share food. So think about, in another location, if you work that, we're talking to them about that. Let me see if I can get you your own cookie. So that would be good, advocating for that child. Excellent job. Good. You guys came up with some really good solutions to these particular scenarios. Like I said, this is a great activity to do with your own children. Right in the car, cooking dinner, around the dinner table, something comes up and you guys put the scenario out there and see what your children would respond to, how they would solve the problem. And if they don't have the skills to solve it, that's a great way to lead in to be able to teach them. So the next thing that we're going to talk about, what actually is social emotional learning? Well, social emotional learning is also known as SEL. is a process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. Many of these terms you have heard in various meetings or in the media. Today, we're going to spend some time diving deeper and learning how to teach them at home on responsible decision-making skills. By choosing this one, we are not saying the other ones are not important. However, we only have time to cover one during this presentation. So what is the importance of understanding and teaching our children SEL? Research has shown that when a child receives instruction and develops competencies in the 5 areas, they will have better academic performance, improved attitudes and behaviors, show less negative behaviors, and reduce emotional stress. These are all things we want for our own children. Responsible decision-making is one of the 5 components that make up the Castle's model of SEL. It means the ability to make positive, constructive decisions about how to behave based on considerations of ethical standards, right versus wrong, as well as relevant social norms and safety concerns. Here is a great video on responsible decision-making. Please jot down any ideas that resonate with you and type them in the chat box.
Every child will face innumerable decisions throughout their lives. Will they make constructive choices that will help them build a successful life? That will depend on their ability to analyze situations, understand ethical implications, and evaluate consequences. Their decisions will affect their own well-being and that of others.
I think for responsible decision making, what we're really talking about here is teaching kids to think through all the parts of a problem and really understand it in a deeper way, so that they're not making impulsive decisions, that they're thinking about, if I make this decision, what are the consequences of that decision? So we're actually trying to think through a few steps ahead. How will other people react to my decision to do X? That's actually involving your social awareness and your relationship skills as you're thinking through your responsible decision making.
When you're thinking about responsible decision making, we have to think too as adults, how much do we help kids make decisions? We have a lot of kids in college and young adults, anxiety and depression's through the roof, and I think there's a lot of kids that turn into adults that aren't sure how to make a decision on their own. So the idea as teachers and parents of supporting our kids in decision making and also letting them deal with natural consequences of their decisions when we know it's not going to hurt them, of course. And again, it's case by case and it depends on age, but it's really important to think about us as scaffolding them, but we want them to be able to eventually make independent decisions that hopefully are the right ones for them.
Having conversations after they make their choice, why did you choose that? What could you have done differently? Was that the best choice? And really allowing them to construct their understanding or verbalize the way that they made that selection. Sometimes it may be because it was enticing, or because they thought it would be fun, or they thought it would have a certain outcome, and that may really give us some insight on how do we present choices? What choices can we present that in the end really gives us what we're looking for? Because choice allows growth and opportunity.
As we think about discipline or consequences, really having our young people think through what happened, why did I do what I did, how did that make others feel, and then what's appropriate for me to do now, both in terms of having a consequence, but also to repair the damage. So if a young child is in trouble for being disruptive in the classroom, we could just give them a timeout, or we could actually help them understand, why is that actually a problem? What is the teacher's experience like when she's trying to teach a lesson and you keep on being disruptive? How would you feel if you were trying to communicate to a group of 25 kids, but one student kept doing that? And what can we do to let that teacher know that we understand how she must feel and that we're sorry about that? they're much more likely to really reflect on that and not do it again and to apologize appropriately than had they just been sent out or lost recess or just excluded from instruction as a timeout. So it's really important for discipline that we give kids opportunities to analyze the situation, to reflect on the different perspectives, and to repair that damage so that they're more likely to internalize the lessons that can be learned from these conflicts and not simply just repeat it again or just get angry.
That's a really good video. One of the things that kind of stand out to me is the learning at an early age, the thought processes that go along with making decisions and understanding the consequences, and that could be very valuable. So, from small everyday choices to larger, more consequential ones, children face a myriad of decisions with ethical implications. How they decide the right thing to do, or even what is the right thing. Responsible decision-making is the ability to make constructive and respectful choices about personal behavior and social interactions based on consideration of ethical standards, safety concerns, and the realistic evaluation of the consequences that stem from actions and the well-being of others. Each time a child is shown care, they're forming their sense of worthiness. The message that another person is focused on my needs and desires communicates that I am worthy of attention. This underlying message is sent each time a parent shows care. This care translates into how the child will be making positive choices as they grow into adulthood. As parents, our interactions and care will shape our children into adults who feel valued and confident to make responsible choices in life. The concept of ethical decision-making is and responsibility is closely tied to other components of SEL. For example, to do the right thing by standing up for friends who are mistreating others. A student needs to be in touch with their own values, self-awareness, and be able to regulate conflicts and emotions, self-management. They also need to be able to empathize with those affected, social awareness, and resist peer pressure to join the relationship skills. Skills needed to make responsible decisions would be noticing and identifying problems, understanding the different aspects in challenging situations, realistically evaluating potential consequences and various actions, considering the well-being of both one's self and others and balancing individual interests with the greater good, valuing moral principles such as justice, fairness, and the rights and welfare of all people, applying ethical standards to personal and social behavior, recognizing the role of emotions in decision making and integrating them with other concerns, solving problems in intentional and appropriate ways, and reflecting on one's own actions. Children just don't know how to make good choices. It's through a course of trial and error that these skills developed. As parents, we can support this development in our children by helping guide their choices and giving them time to reflect on consequences, both good and bad, that they have made. For example, a child does not just say no to drugs without a great many small experiences of saying no to minor issues of concerns. Children just don't stand up for friends who are being bullied unless they have received coaching, practice, and support for doing so. Here are some ways we could incorporate practice, reflection, and coaching on responsible decision making. 1. Consistency is key. Practice and reflection over time will help fine-tune a child's ability to think through consequences and the effects of various choices and actions. Voice your love and acceptance for the child in the midst of poor choices. Reflect on your language, ask good questions, talk about your own thought process, initiate family problem solving, look for ways to show care, and use and discuss consequences. So what are the decision-making process steps? 1. Identify the problem. 2. Gather relevant information. 3. Brainstorm solutions. 4. Identify possible consequences. 5. Make a choice. 6, take action. 7, evaluate the outcome. Here are some visuals to assist with the decision-making process.
All right, parents, I know this is a problem you've seen probably quite frequently within your own home. I know it's one that it's a challenge for me on a daily basis. I have 3 of them, so they have a tendency to tattle on each other quite frequently. And I know as parents, sometimes we have a tendency to do certain kinds of behaviors with them, such as you tell her to stop or she won't have any friends. She doesn't seem to hear you on that. So you try to explain that tattling and what tattling can do. You also explain the feelings of the other students when they tattle on them, and so on and so forth. But a lot of times it seems like the students or your children are not listening to you when you're having this conversation, because this is a behavior that happens quite frequently. So here's another solution, another idea on how to manage that if your child is continually tattling on their classmates or on their siblings. First thing that you're going to do is you're going to ask, how might someone feel if you tattle on them? Then ask, what might happen if you keep doing that? And then, can you think of something different to do so you both won't feel that way, so they won't happen again? So asking those 3 questions allows the child to begin to start having the dialogue in their own mind if they get into the situation, should I tattle or should I not tattle? So here's an example. Tanya, age 10, came to appreciate that tattling on others made them feel angry. So now she is empathizing with others and that they were starting to avoid her. So now she's not having relationships with friends. And that now she felt sad. Once again, she's understanding her own feeling about that. And the next time she had the urge to tattle, she was able to think, which is that dialogue and we want our children to have in their head. If I do that, the kids won't like me and they won't play with me. So what we really want them to do as adults, we all have that dialogue that goes in through our head is when we make those decisions. A lot of times with my own children, I'll go, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. If you do this, this is going to happen. So this is going to help them with that problem solving that things they're going to face on a regular basis. So here's another one. I'm sure you have heard. It's not fair. That's mine. I had it first. So what do you do in a situation like this? What do you say? Well, I know some of the things that I've done in the past, and some of you may have done it as well. Do you insist that they tell you who really had it first? Will you ever really know? Unless you camera your house up, there's a lot of times you're not going to know who had it first. Do you explain what is fair? Because sometimes that conversation, they're only hearing one part. Or do you simply take the toy away? I've done that. So since you guys cannot share the toy, then I'm going to take the toy. Does that really teach them how to problem solve? Do any of these techniques help your children think about what's going on, or is it just a quick solution? Sometimes as parents, I know we're tired and we want the quick solution, but what we have to think is a long term, and we want our children to be able to think through their problems. So here's a new way I'd love for you guys to try. Ask each child to tell you how they feel. So you really want them to have some empathy on how their actions are going to have an effect on someone else, so the child can hear. Then ask if either of them can think of a different way to solve the problem. And that's going to help them problem solve, which is this responsible decision making, which we want. And here's an example. David was in a tug of war over a truck with his brother Sam. His mom asked them both how they felt, so she's following this process, and if they could think of a different way to solve their problem. David looked at Sam and said, "You can have the truck, but when it's my turn, then I will have the truck. Then I can have the truck." Sam was satisfied with David's solution, and from this example, David was 5 and Sam was 3. So even at such a young age as 5 and 3, this is a really important skill to start teaching them. Here's another one I know we face, and it's a very important responsible decision making, is homework. Ugh, I know, homework. Your child has homework that he cannot, and we do have some of our children. I know some of my children struggle with some of their homework. And then I also have one who will not very motivated by homework, would much rather do a lot more other things than to do their homework. Do you help them? If so, how? How do you help them? You could do it for them so it'll get done. And, sometimes I've been there, frustrated enough that I'm like, oh, I'm just going to circle this in. But is that the real goal? Or is that really helping them solve the problem of they have a task they have to complete? They may not want to complete this task, or it may not be motivating enough for them to complete the task. But we all have things in life that we have to do that we may not necessarily want to do, but we have to. So if your child says homework is boring, so here's some strategies. Spice it up, okay? Let you cook dinner as you're solving some of the math problems. Discuss the difference between a quarter of a teaspoon and a half. They're working on fractions. If he likes baseball, ask him if he'd be happier if the Phillies got 2 times 4 runs or 4 times 3 runs. You can vary this according to what your child is learning. When you buy things at the store, let your child connect anything he's learning to real life. And I know from a math standpoint, that's very important because a lot of our kids don't see the importance of math, but math is around us, is all around us. If your child is very young, you can place 2 apples on the left and 2 apples on the right and have them count them. They're doing addition. They may not know it, but they're doing addition and it's something fun. Let her choose other objects to place on the table. If your child is learning to subtract, take away some and let them do that. Speaking of edibles, my son is very much motivated by Skittles. So when I was teaching him his sight words, which is a struggle, and he was not very fond of doing that particular homework, I would use Skittles. He'd have to complete so many of the flashcards before he was able to get his Skittles. Or I also switched up where he was able to get a Skittle for every correct sight word he got. So it was kind of motivating him to do this particular homework. If you have older children, one of the things you can do is ask them a lot of questions. Ask them questions about the story they're reading. What were the characters doing? How the characters felt? What else they could do to solve any problems? Describe and how the story ended. Let him make up different story endings. Let him make up some background about the subject. If the book describes an error within your lifetime, tell them about what life was like. We're going to definitely have a lot of things to share with our grandchildren down the line about how life was in 2020. But this is a great time to be able to share anything that you have on that component. Be creative, and that's the most important piece with homework is to be creative. Let your child really kind of dive into, maybe they're going to tell you what they want to do first because that's their favorite subject. Or maybe you could teach them, and I know I do this, the tasks I don't want to do, I do first because I want to get it over and done with. And the task I really want to do, I do afterwards. So that's another way of being creative. I'm trying to get your children to do their homework. All right. It's just very, very important that you have this time with your child completing their homework because this leads to them to having an understanding and that you have a value of homework and you have a value of education. And and research shows the more time you spend with your children, the more they're going to be actively involved. So in the chat box, please type in some ways that you have been creative with your child when it comes to homework. Excellent. Yes, I love the fact that 15 minutes of work and 5 minutes of a break. Excellent. I like that idea. I would love to use that with my own child. He, like I said, struggles, does not want to do his homework, but maybe if I put the switch in between him doing some of his homework sessions, that might motivate him some. So thank you for that suggestion. Definitely provide those reinforcements. Whether it's electronic time, I do that with my middle one. She's very much motivated by her phone, but she has to do her chores and her homework before she can get her phone time. So that's a great way to motivate some of your students or your children. Yes, set up increment periods of working. So they work, break, work, break, work, break. So they're not having to come home and sit down and once again do so much after they've been sitting in school all day long. Earn minutes of technology. Yep, I just talked about that one. I love that idea. Excellent. I like this suggestion too. I hate homework, but if we have to have it, I set norms or expectations ahead of time and at an early age so that they don't know that there ever was time without it. That's a really good idea. So if you have some of your young children, you go ahead and set that time up that you're always going to have homework at a specific time right before dinner, whether it's an art craft or whether, and they don't really realize that they're learning, but it's time you've set away for them to do work. I like that idea. That's really good. Giving a choice on what to start with. Yeah, we talked about that. Sometimes start with your least or most favorite. Excellent job, you guys. I really like what you guys have provided. To do now is we're going to actually now watch a great video, and it's an example that you can use with your own children. This would be a great jumping off point for you to have a conversation with your children about responsible decision making and what that means.
Today, let's talk about making good choices. Have you ever had to decide between doing what's right and doing what's wrong? Don't worry, we all have. Responsible decision-making skills means making good choices even when it's not easy. Scenario: Jordan has been stuck inside the house for 2 weeks and he is bored. He wants to watch TV, but his mom said no TV until he finishes all of his chores. Reflection questions. What is the responsible choice for Jordan to make and why? What might happen to Jordan if he makes a poor choice? Can you think of a time when you had to make a good choice? Was it easy or hard? Explain why. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media.
Please use these additional resources for more information on teaching your children about how to make responsible decisions. These links may also be found by going to the ESE webpage and clicking on the Parent Support Training Opportunities button. You'll be able to find this recorded session here as well as these links that you may go to for further information. In addition to those resources, we also have listed some books. If you're doing your nighttime reading right before bed, these are some great books, some good jumping off points to have the conversation with your child about responsible decision making. And last but not least, this is a message from KID President on how to make tough choices.
People, you know what time it is? Decision time. So, you got a decision to make. Don't worry. You make decisions all the time. Like what to eat, what to buy, what to wear, how to spend your time, who to spend your time with, what you're gonna say, how you're gonna say it, whether or not you put on the dinosaur costume and escape from town. Hey, it's an option, and I'm proud of it. Researchers found this. We make thousands of choices each day. Thousands of them. In fact, the more responsibilities that you have, the more choices you have to make. There's options all up in your face all the time. And on top of all this, with each choice comes a consequence. Every choice that you make leads to something good or not so good. Like that old saying, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes that reason is you ate a whole roll of Oreos in one sitting. If you excuse me, I gotta take a break. Okay, I'm back. Ugh, that's a bad decision. If you're watching this video, that means you're awesome. Congrats. You're awesome. How will you make awesome choices? Here's a few choices for how you can make choices. You could be impulsive. Don't even think about it. Just mindlessly point, pick, and do whatever. Disclaimer, I don't recommend this choice for making choices. Now you can do it, but it'll lead to mixed results. It's especially dangerous while picking your wardrobe or defusing a bomb. Can't be impulsive then. Another choice you have when making choices, don't do anything. This is a choice to not make any choices, which is a poor choice. Just stand there, wait, do nothing. It's an option. It's always an option. You could say nothing, do nothing, but fair warning, then you'll be nothing. Just saying. Another choice for how you can make a choice. Just be a follower. Yeah, just do what everyone else is doing. When you're a follower, you don't really have to think. It's really simple. Just to look around, see what everyone else is doing. Is everyone just complaining about something? You can do that too. Is everyone doing what everyone else is doing? You can do that too. Is everyone eating an entire row of Oreos in one sitting? Just do that. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm back. I have to make better choices. So being a follower, you can make that choice. It's just a really big problem with that. The world needs you. So how's about this? Focus on being someone worth following. I like that choice. Another choice how you can make your choices, be thoughtful. Warning, this requires thinking. It takes some thought to be thoughtful. But thinking, that's something we should do more often. Think about, what do I care about? What's important to me? What kind of world do I want to live in? Do my choices help create that world? I want to live in a world with more dancing. So what do? A little bit of dancing. The choices you make help make the world. All of us together make big choices sometimes too. Like we all try to come together and make a big decision. Like in an election, who will lead our country? That's a big decision. Whatever happens there, there's something that you can't forget. Just how powerful you are. There are no small people and there are no small choices. You're making big choices every single day. And they make a big difference. Whether you're president in the big fancy Oval Office, or not the president, or just a cable with a cam phone and some cardboard. Your choices matter on election day and every single day. Real change happens right in your backyard. The little decisions that you think are little are actually a really big deal. The choices we make our lives. In your life, it's an awesome one. Make the kind of choices that are worthy of that awesome life. I'm gonna make a decision right now. This world needs a little more dancing, so I'm gonna dance right now. Oh, Mel. Dear.
Well, this comes to the end of our session. We hope that you have enjoyed this. I hope you have gotten something from this. At this time right now, we're going to give you the opportunity to ask us some questions and answers if you have any. So just type them in the chat box if you have anything you would like to ask us. We do want to remind you that we do have another session coming up. It is going to be December 9th at noon. We hope that you guys join us for that particular session. You'll enjoy it. It's about how handling the stress of the holidays, and we're going to give you some interventions with dealing maybe with some behaviors you might have out of your children during this kind of difficult time. So we hope that you do join us December 9th, I said, at 12 o'clock noon. But if you guys have any questions right now, go ahead and type them in the chat box. Okay, so I see that you guys don't have any questions at this time. Once again, I just want to remind you again, December 9th will be our next session that we'll be holding for you as parents, and hopefully you guys will join us then. It'll be at 12 o'clock. We'll hope to see you guys then. Thank you guys so much for attending today, and like I said, I hope this helps. Have a great day.